Hello and welcome to this special radio town hall meeting on public sector integrity in Nigeria by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. I am Adaobi Obiabumo, the program manager at PRIMOG. PRIMOG is a civil society organization working to promote good governance, participation and accountability in Nigeria. This town hall meeting on public sector integrity has the support of the MacArthur Foundation. Today's program has brought together resource persons who will discuss the imperative of strengthening public sector integrity in Nigeria. The program will beam the searchlight on judicial integrity and the spate of contracting corruption in the public sector. For you out there listening to us, please remember that you are a very important part of this meeting. You can watch us live on Facebook at Official PRIMOG. The spelling of PRIMOG is PRIMORG. We will give you the phone numbers to reach us in the course of the deliberations. The public sector is a vital instrument to the survival of any government setting and indeed service delivery, the effectiveness and productivity of any government or democracy to a large extent depends on the efficiency of the public service. Also worthy of note is the rate at which Nigerians' resources continue to be carted away through procurement irregularities, while judicial integrity, which is needed in building a better public sector, is at an all-time low. However, some public servants are doing their best to ensure things are done right and integrity holds sway in Nigeria's public service. One of my guests today, Philip Ezebulam, is a public servant celebrated for his honest lifestyle. He was recognized as an integrity icon in 2020 by Accountability Lab Nigeria. Ezebulam represents hope and believe that there are still good people working in the public service. For you out there, how bothered are you about corruption in the public sector? Why is procurement corruption still booming in Nigeria's public sector, and how can it be tackled? And what must be done to restore the dwindling integrity of the judiciary? You can begin to send your views to 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. My other guests are Professor Chidi Anslem Odenkalu, former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, Emmanuel Bosa, program director at Integrity Organization, Kevin Fineface, a public good advocate and security and energy consultant, as well as Ehi Idako, program manager at Accountability Lab Nigeria. You are all welcome to the program. And for you, if you just tuned in, this is a town hall meeting, and the focus is on the imperative of strengthening public sector integrity in Nigeria. The satellite is also on judicial integrity and the spate of contracting corruption in the public sector. Let me allow my guests to come in here now. We will start first with Philip Ezebulam. Good to have you on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
You have a fascinating profile as a public servant, and that got you recognition of an integrity icon. Could you help us understand why integrity is an issue in the public service?
Thank you for the question. For a discerning mind, you will understand why integrity is still an issue in the public service. The watchword why people drive into integrity problem, first and foremost, is greed. Greed in the sense that people will even want to acquire certain things they don't even need, and they don't even know the reason why they are acquiring them. Because that culture has been so endemic in the public service, because the younger ones will be looking at the ones on top, say this is what they are doing, and no person is punishing them for that. So by the time they get to that position, they will even want to be worst if they are not worst. That is one of the main issues. Integrity is dwindling in the public service.
So greed and lack of punishment.
Greed and lack of punishment.
So for you, what has worked all these years? You were not greedy at all.
What has worked for me? Yeah, I'm greedy.
You're greedy?
Yes, I'm greedy.
To what extent?
I am greedy to do what is right.
Good.
That is my greediness, to do what is right.
So aside from the greed to do what is right, what other factor worked for you?
What other factor that worked for me is my orientation as a child from my parents, particularly my mother. In the book of Proverbs, it says that train a child the way he should go. When he grows up, he will not depart from it. So my mother gave me a very solid foundation of being an honest and sincere person. Even though she's late now, I still keep to the tenets of that instruction and training as a young person. And besides that, she drew me very close to the Word of God. And that helps me again. Each time I read the Word of God, I'll be able to align it with what she had taught me when I was very young. Even I left them at quite a younger age. I left my parents at 17. I never returned to them till today. But that never changed my character and my content.
Interesting there. Family orientation and the Word of God. For us in Nigeria, we are very religious people. We go to our places of worship. Yet, there are still challenges of corruption out there. But let me bring in my other guest, Emmanuel Busa, who is a program director at Integrity Organization. You're welcome to the program. Did you agree when my other guest said greed to do the right thing? Could that be one of the factors that we are lacking in Nigeria today?
Yes, I think it's about value system, if I can define it that way. I think value system is critical to integrity. And I think what the gentleman was mentioning, most importantly, is if he understands the impact of his action on the collective, because for our common good, and the civil service exists for our common good. So in a situation where if greed is to take money, and for personal enrichment, it affects all of us, and his personal integrity and value system will not enable him to do that. And that is something all of us must learn, that we're all equally responsible for that.
Equal responsibility. So having closely followed Nigeria's judicial system over the years, what do you think are the major problems facing the judiciary?
Well, let's start from the fundamental point. What is the point of the judiciary? Access to justice. It's about protecting our civil liberties. It's about protecting our rights. So the judiciary is integral to anything to do with integrity. It's also very key in terms of response where there's a breach. The previous speaker spoke about punishment. I call it consequence. The judiciary is integral to make sure that in a case where there's a breach of the rules, where people fail to act accountably or transparently, that they hold them accountable on behalf of the population that it serves.
Okay, aside from what the judiciary is there to do, in your opinion, in what ways have the challenges of the judicial integrity affected our national development?
I think significantly. I read an article recently which talks about the challenges of the election cycle we have in this country. And one of the critical problems we face, for instance, is election tribunals, election petitions, and the outcomes of those. There's a complete desolation of public trust in anything we do in this country because the judiciary has not kept up to its role. As an example, we look at the two senators who were returned, who got their tickets because of the fact that the judiciary had said, contrary to the Electoral Act, that they should get their tickets, for instance. That erodes public trust. You look at the fact that an important part of access to justice is timeliness of justice. And you look at the fact that, unfortunately, in this country, access to justice takes forever for you to get a judgment on a case of whatever color it is. And of course, all of these different things are the reasons why there are challenges of integrity to our system.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me quickly get to Philippe Zebulam. Where should be the starting point of instilling the culture of integrity in public service and the society at large?
Primarily, to instill the culture of integrity in the public service should start from the recruitment process. It should start from the recruitment process. When the recruitment process is faulty, everything along the line is faulty. And unfortunately, the recruitment process in this country has nothing to write home about.
Recruitment process. Okay, before we bring in Professor Chidi Odinkalu, I also have Kevin Fineface, who is a public good advocate and security and energy consultant. I like your dressing today. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Good to have you here, Kelvin. There's been a lot of clamor for the independence of the judiciary. How do you think this can be achieved?
Well, first, I like what you said. I've always mentioned the recruitment process as a basis with which you can get things right in this country. When we don't focus on merits in our recruitment processes, then it means that we cannot get this right even with the judiciary. Today in the news, we've heard stories of how justices, are currently appointing their, using the words of Professor Chidi, it said, using their so-called girlfriends and their sisters and their family members into the hollow chambers. That in itself will not bring about integrity, because what it simply means is that conflict of interest will play. Now, once there is a conflict of interest, automatically, the reason today we are suffering as a country is as a result of the deeply rooted, what I would call nepotistic, tendencies. And where you find nepotism, you also have where cronyism thrives. And in any environment where cronyism thrives, it means that corruption is the next order of day, which will result into financial, corruption, will result into job, recruitment corruption, and you just name it. And so if we are going through all of that, we cannot have a judiciary that will be that straight, that will be justiciable, that will be able to give the people the justice that they deserve, timely or even as expected. But what you will always find is a judiciary that will be looking for technicalities. Where an article is missing, to use that as a basis with which to give judgment in favor of those who have actually made it possible for them.
So for you, recruitment is key.
It's very key. And I also need to
I will hold you there.
Okay.
We have Professor Chidi Odinkalu on the line. Thank you for joining us. The judiciary is said to be the last hope of the masses, but it is not at its exalted place of pride. How did we get here?
Because we allowed ourselves to be deceived. Thank you for having me. We continue saying this thing about last hope of the masses. Masses get an opportunity in the judiciary. So maybe we should stop allowing ourselves to be deceived with this shibboleth about the judiciary being the last hope of the masses, and understand that the judiciary was never constructed to be like that. And in Nigeria, we've allowed it to be captured by the same people who should be jailed by the judiciary, so that the judiciary is no longer fit for purpose and needs to be totally repurposed.
If the judiciary is not the last hope of the common man, what then should be the last hope?
The judiciary is the lost hope of the common person. The last hope of the common person should be ourselves. You and I and all the people who are listening to us at this time. You cannot outsource your last hope to people whose comfort depends on trampling upon you. Now, what we have done as Nigerian citizens is to outsource to self-interested lawyers, senior advocates, judges, their children, their mistresses, responsibility for holding those same people to account. They don't think about you or I. The law that we have in Nigeria is not Nigerian law. It is English law adulterated in Nigeria, and it is not meant for you and I. Now, if we cannot understand this and begin to get interested in the kinds of shenanigans happening in the courts, then something is wrong with us. If we cannot understand that it is not right for the Chief Justice to appoint his nephew to the Court of Appeal and his son to the Federal High Court, or for the President of the Court of Appeal to appoint all in 1 year, or for the President of the Court of Appeal to appoint her son-in-law to the bench of the Court of Appeal and get her daughter appointed to the Plateau State High Court where she comes from, all in 2 years. Then, and we're looking to those same self-interested people to protect you and I. Something is fundamentally wrong, not with them, but with us.
So now, if I would say the blame has been shifted to the people and no longer the system that puts, or the constitution that puts the judiciary in that place. What then should the citizens do? Especially for those who feel that they are incapacitated, that they do not have hope, and there's nothing that they can do. Because if you feel the pulse of the citizens out there, it's not one that gives hope.
You see, if you know, in 2014, the Supreme Court handed down a case in OKJ and OKJ, which was the estate of a man who died in 1981. Listen to me. This man died in 1981. A dispute broke out over his estate. He died in Lagos. And in 2014, 33 years later, the Supreme Court reached the judgment. Today, we are talking of cases begin in the Supreme Court. If this concerned politicians, within 6 months, the case would have been decided from High Court to Supreme Court. And you're talking about common person. Now, no, we are not as disempowered as citizens as we think. These people have captured our institutions. It is up to us to go and take our institutions back from them. It's not going to be pretty. I'm not going to come to your program and start telling you we are going to sue them and get it from court, because it's not going to happen in court. It will happen in places that are not pretty. If we're not interested in doing things that are not pretty, then let us forget it. It is a political struggle. Go and ask the people of Malawi how they did it. Ask the people of Zambia how they did it. Their countries are still there. Okay? Their countries have not gone to war, but it is a political struggle. The judiciary is a political institution, and let us not fool ourselves about it. It is being used for political purposes. It's being weaponized politically, and we come and get ourselves made idiotic by lawyers who are self-interested, so that we don't understand what they are doing and how they are ruining us. That has got to change.
So what you're saying is that politics influence the outcome of the judiciary to a large extent?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that politics determines, not influences, determines everything about the judiciary, and that the judiciary in turn allows itself to be weaponized for politics. I have said it. In Kano, one of the three justices in this Kano appeal that is so controversial is a nephew of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Is the Chief Justice so asleep that he does not understand what that means? Of course he is, as he understands what that means. He is not asleep. So you people should stop talking about this nonsense about judiciary being independent. It is not. It has been politically weaponized, and everyone who is listening to this must understand that the judiciary in Nigeria has been politically weaponized, has become, for these purposes, corrupted, and we have, as citizens, to alter that fundamentally.
Thank you for that. If I must quote one of the assertions by Chief Afe Babalola, who said that time was when lawyers could predict the likely outcome of a case because of the facts of the law and the brilliance of the lawyers that handled the case. But can we actually say that today, that one can sit and predict the outcome of a case based on the brilliance of the lawyer, the law? Unfortunately, the person listening to me may say no. And like you have said, Prof, that the citizens have a role to play in ensuring that they take back the judiciary. But before I let you go, do you think that there are reforms that are important for the judiciary right now?
There are no reforms that can work unless we deepen the politicization of the judiciary. They've captured administrative processes which should have worked in disciplining the judiciary. The Chief Justice is the owner of that one. They've captured the politics. The judges and the politicians use the executive arm for the purposes of unseating people whom they don't like and putting people in power whom they like. They have captured the legislative process. The legislators are so afraid of the judges, they don't want to do that. Those are the three lawful means. So you cannot use them anymore. Everything is captured. The only thing that remains is politics. We have got to drag this thing to the brink that the judges look at it and say, all of us, the people will tell the judges, if you don't behave, we will all perish here.
Like one of the politicians said, if we perish, we perish.
I'm putting it as bluntly as it is. The only way for us to pull back is for the judges to realize, and for the people to drag the judges to a point where the judges realize we are going to perish in all of this, and you will perish with us together.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Chidi Odinkalu, for your insightful contribution today. I'm sure the person that listened to you, you must have awoken something in that person's spirit to say that as a citizen, I have a role. I should not allow what is happening in the judiciary as it is today to continue. We must hold the judges accountable for their actions. Thank you so much, Professor Chidi Odinkalu, former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission and a human rights activist. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, if you just tuned in, this is a radio town hall meeting and we are looking at integrity in the public sector as well as integrity in the judiciary. You listened to my guests. The first is an icon, a 2022 icon, who talked about greed to do the right thing. He also talked about family orientation. And my other guests, Emmanuel Bosa, who also concurred to say that yes, we need value reorientation in Nigeria, while Kevin Fineface, he nodded while Prof was talking about the politics in the judiciary. How would you react to all of this, and what do you think must be done?
The take home for Prof's submission is simply the fact that the people need to take ownership of the political processes. We saw what happened in the last elections that took place. I think it is time for the citizens, especially those who are eligible to vote, to come to realize that the voter's card is the most powerful tool in democracy, supposed to be, and that the only tool that legitimizes the office of the occupier in that office. So what we need to do is to begin to galvanize the people and ensure that only those who have what we need to offer are given the opportunity to serve. Because if the legislators get out there, they only formulate laws that can protect their interests. And the judiciary will have nothing to do but to go by the provisions of the law as being, passed by the legislators. So if we want to make a change, then we can do something very drastic, and I want to recommend this. That's what I call the name, shame, and banish, situation. Why are we not displaying those corrupt officers, public officers, politicians, put them on billboards across, the states? Why are we not getting their families to be shamed alongside with this same corporate? Why are we not banishing them from our communities? Why do we celebrate those who have stolen money that they don't have any business having? Why do we have people who came in with Ghana must go back from a Kennedy Shuku, transport company? They're suddenly, all of a sudden, they are building palatial homes in Maitama in billions, and nobody's asking any question. Why do we have judges that will just suddenly just have homes that they never built but have moved into? Because we have seen situation in this country where judges are given keys to homes they never built, but because some things have already gone through. And I can actually give you proof.
Do you think lack of knowledge is one of the reasons why the citizens are not equipped to hold the government accountable?
Lack of knowledge and poor education, poor civic education. If I knew from primary school my basic rights and things I needed to do, but we don't teach that these days, and parents also don't put so much effort to educate their children to understand the importance of politics. I was telling my kids that I said, look, you must be involved in the political processes. And so whenever I have any discourse on it, I ask them to listen, to be sure they know what is demanded, and also to ask for accountability even in their schools. Don't come to me and tell me things. Go approach your authorities, complain. When they fail to do what is expected, you tell me that I take it up from my own level. And so if I don't get them involved at this stage, then it means they'll become like, we all have, become idle and not interested in the political processes.
Another factor that hinders integrity in the public sector is procurement, corruption in the procurement. Financial experts believe procurement and budgetary corruption is a major setback to our development as a nation. How can this ugly norm be changed?
Simple. Recruitment process. When you have people who have no business being there. When I was recruited to the Nigerian, government service, 1997, we were told about certain criteria that were expected. I mean, in the part of the paramilitary sector, no flat foot. But I was shocked to get to my training camp and I saw people who are not even fit to be there, but can't even speak English, can't even comprehend what was even said, but all being recruited into the processes, and we all, came out like in quotes, have been done through that. So if we have scenarios where ethnic or religious interests are utilized to do recruitment, we will not have it right with our procurement system. The level of corruption you find in government procurement is unbelievable. And it's not, the reason is not far-fetched. Because of nepotism, there's cronism. Because of cronism, there's kickbacks. And because of kickbacks, then we don't have things that are supposed to be done right being done right. And so to stop that, it simply means that we need to take away our procurement processes. The law is there actually. We need to take our procurement processes from how it is today and ensure everybody that is involved in the procurement processes are properly monitored. Their accounts, their siblings' accounts, their family members' accounts are properly monitored so that we can see the money trail, because you can actually know where money goes. We can see the money trail. Then we need to begin to ask people questions. How is it that you're a level 10 officer, but today you have like palatial homes everywhere? And if people can account for the wealth that they have, the cars they drive, then finally, before I get off the mic on this aspect, is to ensure that government procurement is subject to locally produced goods. I see no reason why a government official will be driving a Lexus that costs about 250 million naira. It is absurd. It is a window for corruption, because that lifestyle you're giving them today, they must sustain it. And how do they sustain it? They must steal.
Okay, consumption of locally produced goods. Thank you so much, Kevin Fineface, public good advocate and security and energy consultant. It's time for me to open the phone line so that the person listening at the other end of the dial can join in the conversation. The numbers to call are 0809 40072. 0809 40072. We have a caller here. Hello. Okay, your name and where you're calling us from.
Okay, I am Sunday calling from Maraba.
Sunday, as a citizen, are you bothered about the corruption in the public sector, and how do we ensure integrity?
Well, sincerely speaking, the procurement in Nigeria has been bastardized. And this is actually getting people that are not supposed to, people that doesn't actually see. Average honorables in National Assembly have their own contractors that they release work to do work for them. They negotiate works with MBAs. All sorts of immoralities are happening. We know this happening, and appropriate agencies should actually investigate to this and see. Go and look at our budget system. It's copy and paste everywhere. You see someone, a permanent secretary in office, comes to office, they cannot actually come together to come up with a good budget system in Nigeria. But unfortunately, you see them making reference to what has been done in the past. And the same career officers are the ones that will be telling the politicians, this is how we've been doing it, Oga. This is exactly what happened everywhere. Our budget system.
Okay, thank you so much. From your end, our budget system or the process of budgeting needs to be looked into. Thank you for your contribution. The numbers again are 0809 40072. Hello.
Hello, my name is Onisha Alexander, aka Mr. Focus.
And what must be done to restore the dwindling integrity in the judiciary?
Yeah, actually, the system has been corrupted. The entire system. And
Them?
The entire system.
What must we do?
There are many ways we can deal with this. Okay. In the masses are the majority. These people are the minority. We can deal this through contract. What I mean by contract? When before the election, majority should come out and hold these people accountable that if you should come here between so period, like from 1st month to 6 months, we need so things. We need the structure to be changed. And if you don't do this, we are coming after you. It's a threat.
The onus lies on the citizens to take up the mandates to ensure that the right things are done. Thank you so much for your contribution. Yes. I still have one of my guests here, Ehi Idako, who is the program manager at Accountability Lab Nigeria. Welcome to the program again.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the government policies, plans to promote integrity remain a very essential factor. What is your advice to the government in this regard?
Well, okay, I would like to take from what we've seen on the field. There's a heavy distrust, and I think Mr. Emmanuel mentioned it when he was speaking. There's a heavy distrust from the citizens to the government. And this is basically about anti-corruption activities and initiatives not working and not actually people not seeing the consequences, or people not seeing that people are brought to book, consequences of corruption happening. And one thing that we've been able to do at Accountability Lab is that we have viewed the whole corruption landscape, and just from the top of your head, if you're talking about any corrupt public officer, you can name them because you've seen them being called out for their corrupt practices on the news. But if you think about public servants or civil servants that are working and are doing well and have shown ethical conduct, you can't name any one of them. And that's why we are using the social learning theory, which suggests that people learn behaviors by viewing and observing people's behavior. And so we are trying to amplify the stories of integrity icons that we have seen across the country. And over the years, what we've done is that we've sent out volunteers across the country to go to different MDAs and government ministries to solicit to get nominations and get stories of honest public officials. And what we do is that we name and film them.
What has been the progress rate so far?
All right, so the progress rate so far is that it's very difficult. I will not lie about that. It has been very, very difficult and challenging because we get responses like, oh, there's no corrupt and there are no persons of integrity in the police. So why are you guys coming here? There's nobody like that. In fact, we get calls from people telling us that they would like to pay for the awards, and some people do not even believe that these processes work. But what we have seen over the years is that we've been able to amplify the stories of these icons. We've gotten over 5,608 nominations across 5 years to 6 years, and we've been amplifying these stories, and we've been seeing people changing. I'd like to tell a story about an ACP that is part of the integrity icons, and he was celebrated in 2019, and he is a police officer, and he decided that he wasn't going to collect bribe. He was posted to the Niger Delta. He wasn't going to collect bribe of 6 million naira weekly, and which was a lucrative thing that other police officers were doing, but he decided that he wasn't going to do it. And what that man has been able to do in his area command in Akwa Ibom is that he has been able to institutionalize that bail is free and police is your friend. He has been able to show, like, this works, this is my lifestyle, and this value is what I want everybody under me to imbibe.
But has he been able to replicate himself in that?
Yes, and that's the essence of the integrity icon. We try to encourage the icons not just to only be the one standing out in their institution, but also have like mentorship programs within their office so that they can mentor other young officers and other young junior staff under them to also imbibe that culture.
Thank you. Hello. Comrade, you have 30 seconds.
What I was trying to say is that Nigerians are not taking their leaders to account. You cannot just sit at home there and say your leader is wrong, your leader is doing the right thing. Why you have not confronted your leader? Everybody is afraid of dying. So, but what I want to say to Nigerians today is, let us come out and challenge our leaders. How many protests have been taken on the street?
Thank you so much, comrade. You just concurred to what Prof said earlier. Hello.
Hello.
Your name and where you're calling us from, please.
My name is Charles Ejime, and I'm calling from Abuja.
So, Charles.
Yes.
You.
Okay. My perception about all this is our accountability system is zero, in as much as we know how to track these corrupt practices. No one is taking charge or leading or wanting to stick his neck as it is. So we keep going in circles and not really trying to make those changes that we want to see. And until we start holding our leaders accountable, for example, a clear instance, you know, like a civil servant, you know this civil servant salary for a whole year, for a whole 35 years, cannot be able to buy a particular property. And this person owns this property in tens and in hundreds. And nobody has come to ask, how come? So these are simple indices that is a systemic issue. And until you start...
What should the citizens do in your own opinion?
In my own opinion is one, we need to even understand, first of all, what is it, what is required, which is not there, which is the information is not there. They need to understand this particular public officer or a politician, what is due them and what is due us as citizens. First of all, once you understand this, you'll be able to now push, because you can only fight for what you know and not what you don't know.
Thank you so much, Charles, for your contribution. Civic education. Citizens need to be educated. Ehi, before I let you go, what would be your advice to citizens on the need to promote integrity on their own?
Okay, I think citizens need to be angry enough. I think we are all docile and we just let things pass.
So
and
we're not angry enough.
We're not angry enough, and this is it. If you think through back in the 1960s when Nigeria got its independence, one of the things that happened in 1966 when the military took over, what were the issues? They were talking about corruption, embezzlement, nepotism, and how many years down the line, these are issues that we are still talking about and grappling with. But we need to be angry enough. We need to be angry enough to take action. I hear a lot of people say hold government accountable, but we need to break down the information. How do we begin to hold government accountable? Because I know that there are some people that are angry enough and are ready to take action. So if everybody takes action in writing a letter, in coming out to the streets to protest, in calling, is as easy as calling your councillor to say what's happening on this street, or calling your local government chairman to say what was budgeted for and this is not what we got. Those kind of citizens' action are what we need right now, because just like Professor Odinakalu said, nobody is coming to save us. We are in this mess and we need to take ourselves out, and citizens need to take action.
The office of the citizens cannot be overemphasized. I must quickly add that there are many public servants who are living above board, shunning corruption in their offices. Everyone is not corrupt. An example is my guest here, Philip Ezebulam. According to the representative of the Accountability Lab, the challenge is how to increase their numbers and improve accountability in the public space. Philip Ezebulam, you will agree with me that people like you are not too many in public service. What would you tell the public servant who would love to be upright but discouraged by the system?
Thank you for the question. Before I take on that question, there's one comrade that phone said that citizens are not ready to hold their leaders accountable. I disagree with him to an extent. In 2014, I was dismissed from the public service for asking the CEO, why should you do this? It's immoral, it's injustice, it's not part of the public service system. He said, fire him. That person was bothered to know what I'm saying, whether it is right or wrong. They fired me. I gave them all the allowances that is provided in the public service and took them to court. For 4 years and 6 months we were in court. I won them. They went to appeal. I won them. I came back. So then things started changing. But one bad thing that even your own colleagues will come and ask you, is you, only you, that saw this thing? You have put your family into trouble. You have put your family into mess. So when you look at such people, you don't even know how to place them where they do that, because of little gratifications they get, they are now through decency and uprightness overboard.
Maybe they are not. Could it be that they are not knowledgeable enough?
It's not. Some of them are not. Some of them are very knowledgeable. Some of them, because of what they get from that angle.
Personal gain.
Yes, personal gain. No person is looking at the collective gain. The only thing is that we'll continue to push. We'll continue to preach. Those who wants to hear will hear. Those who want to first see. There's a friend who was engaging in this employment racketeering. I called him one day, said, this thing you are doing, what of about your children? Do you know what he told me? That Nigeria has been destroyed, that the children will fit in. Wow. It didn't take 6 months, the man died. And now
unfortunately,
where is the children today?
Okay, so because of our time, what would you tell that civil servant who is listening to you now?
What my advice to other civil servants who are is there's no there's no short way to go to heaven except to do the right thing. Resist this temptation.
Okay, that means that the cultural norms on corruption norms needs to be changed. Some of this narrative, like your friend said, that children would fit in.
Yes.
This is one of the messages that people keep replicating, and others have already conformed to that corruption norm. But we need to change that, to tell them that Nigeria cannot continue this way.
Yes, the narrative
we need
to
to change the system, because like Prof said, we are all in it together and we all have a role to play. Thank you so much, Philip Ezebulam. I'm Emmanuel Bosa, the Program Director at Integrity Organization. How much of a political will is needed at this point to cure the judicial system?
I think that's very important. I think I think political will is everything we need. But let's talk about what does that mean, political will. We've focused our conversation today around people power. What does that look like? How do you hold your judicial officers accountable? So in our program, for instance, we have something called the court monitoring system, which we're implementing in partnership with the Nigerian Bar Association. And what it means essentially is that we empower people with agency through technology to go into the courtrooms that they have cases, whether you're a lawyer or a citizen, and you listen to a case, not just whether the judge made the right judgment, because that's not for you to determine. It's for you to look at the process of the administration of justice. And then you make sure that if that judge doesn't do what they're supposed to do, like show up on time, like demonstrate an understanding of the case, like make sure the case bundles are there, all the processes that must be followed, you report it on the app, and it goes back to an institution called the Justice Reform Project, which is responsible for working with the NJC, the National Judicial Institute, and Commission, to ensure that judge is held accountable for the failures to be able to administrate justice as provided in the law. That's one way people power can actually work.
So that means in your organization, you're getting the citizens involved in ensuring the judicial reform.
You have to, because it's critical mass. And I think it's important to start because, one, you need obviously people power and knowledge, but beyond that, you need data. People need data to understand where the risks are, where the gaps are, and the opportunities for interventions. And that is what is lacking, because we talk very holistically around leaders and citizens. But what does that actually mean in reality when it comes to taking action? People don't know what to do. I'll give you an example. One of the programs we do, I'll do it in a second. One of the programs we also run is Integrity Over Corruption, which is how do you empower people to come together as a collective to determine the skills they need to be able to advocate and seek for change institutionally, rather than this holistic talk that doesn't provide real solutions. So these are the kinds of things we need to roll out more of.
All right, thank you. And we've talked about the citizen, the office of the citizens. We've talked about politics and how it influences or determines the outcome of the judicial processes. Now, Kevin Fineface, I like the way you are looking at me. You are wondering, what is she going to say? But then, you are a citizen. The person listening to us is also a citizen. What would be your advice to the Chief Judge of Nigeria, who is also a citizen of Nigeria?
It should come clean. In entirety, in the processes with which he handles his administration, and now the judges are deployed, and now the court processes are done. It should come clean. I wonder why in the 21st century we still do not have a data-driven court system where every process is properly captured so that the citizen get to know, or even for cover purposes, tomorrow people can actually fall back, easily get information. I was in the US and it was very easy to punch a button to get whatever you need to have from the court system. But we don't have that here in Nigeria. The first time I introduced that, I actually proposed that to the Nigerian government, was in 2010. It was never bought. It was just taken out of the place. So when we have a situation that is in this country, the Chief Justice of the country should understand that his time here on earth is actually not that much as he actually has lived to this time. So what legacies he needs to leave behind, and legacies for his children. The need for people to want to self-gratify themselves and not having that contentment spirit. It's not what is driving all of us. If you drive around Abuja, you will see homes that people are not living in. But because they have phones that they never got the store, it's laundered. The system is not doing enough to ensure those persons pay for these things that they're actually doing. If we keep that right, judicials will be right. And once we get a cost system right, guess what happens? It means the common man that we talk about, we have hope in the system and we'll do right. Because once there is a reward, there should be punishment as such. I want to thank, the other speaker who came up here. Thank you for what you do, sir. Your times are rare. In fact, I'm led to actually give you some cash today for being upright.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin Fineface. And I'm sure the other guests will say, please extend that also, because they are also people of integrity. But the fact they've not been celebrated does not mean that they're people of integrity. Thank you so much, Kevin Fineface, and all the guests today. You have heard all that we have talked about. In as much as we are asking or holding other people accountable, we should also be accountable to ourselves. That is talking about personal accountability. How accountable are you? Are you one of the reasons why Nigeria is where it is today? Or are you a solution to the problem that we are currently facing? We have come to the end of this special radio town hall meeting on public sector integrity in Nigeria. I sincerely appreciate our guests, Philip Ezebulan, public servant par excellence and a 2020 integrity icon. Professor Chidi Adinkalo, former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. Emmanuel Busa, program director, Integrity Organization. Kevin Fineface, public good advocate and security and energy consultant. And Ehi Idako, program manager at Accountability Lab Nigeria. If you have a message for us or you want to react to what you heard on this program, please reach us on 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. This town hall meeting is supported by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation at its website, macfound.org. You will be duly informed when the next town hall meeting will take place. Please follow us on all our social media platforms at official Primorg. To get timely information on our activities, visit our website, primorgnews.org, for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, www.primorg.org, and our news website, primorgnews.org, to get all the information about Primorg. Many thanks to the Primorg team for their wonderful work. The executive producer of this town hall meeting is Okiri Agbonsremi. Don't fail to report corruption when you see it or encounter it in any form. I am Adaobi Obiabumo. Thank you for listening.